Welcome to the weekend show with Mediumjay now. With Pride Month upon us, we're in the month of June. The Pride festivities have continued. And the never-ending amount of corporations that are trying to pander to literally, it's about 4% of the population that make up the LGBTQ community. It just seems to be going a little differently this year. And it stems from directly after the Bud Light incident that happened a month or two back ago. Bud Light officially lost approximately 28% as of this recording of the podcast. Roughly 28%. It might be still counting. They lost their business even after walking it back. The company made a commercial like they're fucking Clint Eastwood or something, where I think the fucking owner was riding on a horse, which is weird. He was riding on a horse and he's like, "Make America great again." He talked like, "I'll be damned if they could pry this cold beer from my dead hand." He sounded like he was, he sounded like he just smoked a pack of Marlboros or something. It was very strange, man. They just completely did a 180 after that Dylan Mulvaney incident, right? And was such a devastating blow to Anheuser-Busch's sales, and that's Bud Light's parent company. Many other corporations, such as Nike, the NBA, Starbucks, Walmart, these giant conglomerate corporations, they're starting to be well aware of the effects of the rainbow as a cautionary tale as to what happened to Bud Light, right? Now, it's so much so that on June 1st, a lot of these companies actively went to, Twitter, Facebook, their promo pages, their official pages, with the little check marks. They got the little blue check marks. They changed their logos. Starbucks changed their green and whites just to rainbow colors. The NBA changed theirs. The MLB changed theirs. They all changed their company logos to incorporate the pride flag and colors, right? And the same day insinuated hundreds of, no, not insinuate, I don't know if I said insinuated right, instigated, yeah. That's instigated hundreds of angry comments, promising to never shop, never watch, and never even use their services again. And they quickly scrambled to get a hold of their old logos and put them back up, literally ditching the rainbow practically the next day. The next day, people woke up and it was back to the normal standard color, colors of whatever they had. The NBA is the red, white, and blue, I think. I don't know what MLB, I think it's blue and white or something like that. But again, neither here nor there. They ditched all that rainbow logos and they immediately went back. And it was interesting because on Twitter, I seen some guys post something saying, yeah, it's going to be interesting seeing Pride Month and how many corporations back down from it, because there's a lot of people that are just tired of it. And even I would go as far as to say even members of the LGBTQ community would have to probably, that if there's a month where they just target people for sales, it's just hey man, we want your guys' sales. So we're going to pretend that we're, supportive, and it's a corporation. It's made up of individuals and identity. It has no bearing on inclusivity other than, all right, this month we're supporting you guys. Now next month, it's something else. We're on something different. It's just a weird pander. And it feels definitely pandering. I'm sure of it. A lot of people could see that it's just it's a sales run, right? It's the corporate, let's get these people, but it's and then again, it's only 4% of the population. Seems to be it seems to be going a bit far and excessive, right? And I don't understand it. I'll never understand why there's such a good push. I watched Patrick Bet Davis on Andrew Schultz's Flagrant podcast, right? And he was saying that there's this giant push that could be, and it's just him. He just made it up, but he says it could be because the fucking powers that be in America and North America see that the population control in China, they have their totalitarian government. They have this giant thing to be pushed to stop people from breeding in because of population control. And they want to do that in, you know, Canada and America, but they can't really do anything like that. So the goal would be to just get so many people in this community and because there's nobody giving birth in the LGBTQ community. It's, you know, gays, except maybe the bisexuals, right? Or the people that they're already adopting. There's not a lot of, like, the population is rarely affected by these members in the community, right? And it kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense why there's such a drastic push for these, especially with corporations, and especially with that. And I feel the same way with like the Black Lives Matter kind of thing, where it's like, yeah, Black Lives Matter and everything, but it's weird when a corporation has to tell it, you know, tell us this. You know, it's weird when, and people already start feeling like, man, it's weird when the corporation stopped pandering to this specific thing, and it's going in a direction where we're spinning, I think, the same wheel over and over again, right? Now this big thing where it's like, oh, you know, they're like there's a giant push, and I feel like we're missing important things in life. There's a big, something deeper than just a couple of companies. Well, I mean, the majority of these woke companies, you know, not changing their status, right? Like it, and I always thought it was weird too, like with when Black Lives Matter was going on, because if you didn't change your thing, and I specifically put a post out there. I'm like, I'm not changing my thing to a blank screen, my profile picture, because because that doesn't have no bearing on supporting Black Lives Matter. But those white girls that change their color thing, and then after a month or two change it back, they don't. How much of an impact does that have on Black lives? Oh, I remember she's an ally. She changed her thing to a black square. It was just ridiculous, and I feel like that's the least a company can do, right? Is changing unless there's companies going like, okay, we put money into these communities that have been affected by maybe violence because of, you know, the hatred of you know, they're you know, gay, you know, there's a lot of, you know, the LGBTQ, you know, members of harm and whatever. But again, it's like the transitioning these kids in at a young age and having these people like kind of on the cusps of being grooming these children. It's a double-edged sword, right? Where it's like, how fucking many times do we hear the statistics of like these kids that grow up as, you know, they transition very young, and then they grew up and they slowly become aware that they weren't necessarily trapped in the wrong person's body, but they were just gay, or they were just bisexual or lesbian. And it's a staggering number of I think it's 51%, up to 49 to 51% of people that transition later on in life end up committing suicide, which it's just a weird kind of a thing. and it does go into that conspiracy of like population control, because like once you can't breed and you can't produce kids, and you ultimately kill yourself, it's just going the route of like hitting the two birds one stone effect. And I think the government or the powers that be, the deep state, whatever they may be, it's an ingenious way of getting them to move. It's like laying a trap down and then voluntarily getting people to step in that trap, which is fucking it's genius if that is the giant conspiracy. Or it's just that corporations just see it as the thing to do every month in June. Much like Black History Month. Oh, Black Lives Matter again in February. Oh, it's Asian. Oh, in May it's Asian Heritage Month. You know what I mean? Like, start talking up the Asians. You know what I mean? Get a bag of rice. Get a bag of rice. Mr. Domino's, bring a bag of rice to work. It's for the and make some fried rice for these people. Even though we're a pizza company, it just doesn't really make sense to me. There has to be some sort of giant play, and I know that I'm a conspiracy head, man. I believe in that to the fullest, like the most ridiculous conspiracies. But a lot of it does line up with population control. A lot of it is, especially when we're only dealing with 4% of the population being LG. It's a crazy push. But then again, everyone should feel equal, and we're not excusing the people that truly do feel like they need to transition. But again, there's the LGB, lesbians, gays, and bisexuals are trying to exclude themselves from the trans, and it's like a movement called Gays Against Groomers, or Gays Against Grooming, and they're trying to push themselves against, like, they truly believe that's the gay the whole drag queen thing in school should be abolished, right? Like, you shouldn't be in kindergarten teaching or showing vivid pictures of same-sex acts to fucking 6 and 7 year olds, right? In kindergarten to grade 3, it's ridiculous. It's way too young. I wouldn't want to show any kids that at that age any kind of forms of sexuality or gender identity, because it's confusing to a kid, and it should be at least you should at least be a teenager. You're old enough, when you're a teenager, or when you get your first hard on, you start experimenting. But either here nor there. Disney doubles down on the twinks by starting a gay, a day called Gay Days. It's not even a day. It's the whole. They're starting this whole thing in Florida, in a weird feud between DeSantis. Right now, Governor Ron DeSantis passed this thing called "Don't Say Gay" bill in Florida. Right, restricting classrooms to teach kids about sexuality, particularly gay and LGBTQ, and the gender identity at early ages. Now, kindergarten to grade 3, it's K to 3, right? I'm pretty sure that's what it means. So that's a young age. That's a ridiculously young age to be teaching the sexuality, to let kids explore their sexuality and to show them like lewd sex acts, and genitalia. It's too young of an age, man. But the bill itself nowhere says gay at all throughout the text, and although it may scare some of the teachers, the teachers may go, I don't want to, and in Florida, oh gosh, I don't want to, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people don't read these bills. But it states, man, in its the text itself is so loosely written, so much that any lawyer could loophole itself and his or her clients out of it, right? The problem is the thing is way too vague, the don't say gay bill, because it specifically says any kind of instructions on the gender identity and gender sexuality, which is a fucking weird. It's a weird layout, but it doesn't really specifically specify any kind of what is truly banned. So if it doesn't say with specifics what is truly banned, other than instructing your teachers not to, it states no teacher should be instructing the kids on gender, sexuality, or gender identity politics, kind of thing, which again, it's so far scoped out. It's like saying, all right, don't say gay, right? Like that's way more specific, the title, but then in the finest print, it's loopholed around it where you can, it's so fucking widely spread that you can pretty much not talk about it at all. And it got passed, right? And the problem, or maybe it got passed, I don't know if it got passed, to be honest, but there's also like lines talking that had nothing to do with that. And I think Joe Rogan actually mentioned it, how like there's things that have nothing to do with gender identity or gender politics. And it was just passed so that legislation could fucking reap more funding for shit. I don't even know. It gets really tricky, right? And the problem is like if two boys like fucking, you know, jokingly in kindergarten kiss each other, with the bill stating you aren't allowed to instruct them about same-sex relations, the two boys, you know, jokingly kissed, can go thinking in their heads, you know, they might get pregnant after that, right? And the teacher's not allowed to instruct them. That's not allowed to be. So again, it gets a little tricky with these bills. And again, obviously, if the teacher goes, listen, you're not going to get pregnant. Two men kissing can't get. That is technically banned, which is like solid advice and information for two little kids going like, oh shit, I held hands with this dude. I might get can you get me pregnant? Things like that, where it's like, it's not gonna get, you know, no fucking parent's gonna sue the teacher, the kid's teacher, because she said, listen, you're not gonna get pregnant from two little boys, you know, fucking jokingly kissing, or whatever it is, whatever it may be, right? Holding hands, or, you know what I mean, hugging. That being said, it does create a lot of division, and it creates a lot of people with paranoia. But nonetheless, Disney World invites the cocksuckers and twatlickers from around the world with a sea of people wearing red shirts with the words "say gay" on them, completely missing the point, right? The whole thing never really stated that they're banning the words gay from school. So again, it's this weird farce. It's this weird fucking legal mumbo jumbo fucking filler busting thing for the politicians. Now, we're here because it's gay days. It's that simple, Stegall said. Mark Stegall and his gay lover Robert Moats knew they made the right decision coming to Disney World during Pride Month. Here you can see Mickey Mouse wearing Minnie Mouse's blouse, right? Goofy getting railed by Donald Duck, and the white Ariel getting finger blasted by the black Ariel, right? But then again, you know, maybe interracial dating is frowned upon. You know, interracial lesbian porn might be too far for Florida. It is Florida, right? You know what I mean? And they believe in freedom and the right to use the hard R, right? Now, I thought about, what if I showed up to gay days in Disney, Florida? Would they just go like, nah, get them out of here? You know what I mean? I just showed up with a girl or something. I'm like, oh, I'm just no, no. Or like you have to kiss. There's like some gay guy at the. You gotta kiss him to get in. It's weird, man. Because gay days, it's like black men, black men club or some shit. Like it's like, yo, you could, like well, not Disneyland or anything like that, but where's the fucking, is there anything like, okay, Six Flags in Canada, right? Six Flags. Six Fags. No. Six Flags did, well, Six Fags, essentially. If Six Flags did it like Six Flags Black Days, and it's like, yeah, we're all inclusive, and like, we're doing this to support the black lives, whatever. It's just a little weird, because it kind of feels like then it's like, it's putting people off, right? Much like fucking the gay days, right? Like, it's like having so many, such a push for the gay agenda. It puts people that are straight, like I know a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, I know a couple people. I actually know this one guy specifically that he was bisexual, right? And he transitioned into a girl. And in all honesty, I don't think he was a lonely guy. He was lonely, often by himself, kind of like the weird guy. But I think he fell for this kind of bait where the constant promotion, constant telling you're free to transition. If you feel like you're trapped in a woman's body and you're a man, or you're a man trapped in a woman's body, or a woman trapped in a man's body, transition. And in all honesty, man, it looks horrible. It looks like it doesn't matter. You can't take the chromosomes out of your DNA and swap them. It's just, we're talking just specifically science. This is a pencil. I can't just magically reform this pencil into a pen with ink and everything and go, yeah, it's gonna look shoddy. It's gonna look terrible. It's gonna look like it's botched. And I don't think the technology will ever be there fully for us to do it correctly. To just whack off your dick and create it into a vagina. It just doesn't, it's one of those things. And even though that sounds hella fucking transphobic, it's also it's also a fucking scientific fucking fact. These are anomalies where there are people that do transition, and I give them like, okay, that person does seem like they completely should transition, right? Like there are some, but we're talking about a 0.04% of it's because the entire LGBTQ community is only made up about 4%, 4 to 5%, growing, granted, but it's also an insane fucking push for these people to be included, and it's like, if you're straight, there is a small feeling that and straight, and not even straight proud or whatever, straight proud of it, but just like you enjoy the comforts of what you're naturally born into, liking, if you're a man liking a woman and a woman liking a man, it's supposed to feel, I don't know what it is, but it's supposed to feel natural. And with these gender identity politics that have been pushed into mainstream media, it feels as though being a normal heterosexual man, you are wrong in fully expressing liking women, and women subsequently liking men, right? Like, it's a weird thing that I'll never understand. But moving on, man. Canadian police are indeed becoming more militarized, damaging public trust. Despite our city's Winnipeg, our own city, Winnipeg, Winnipeg's police chief of police stating in the news last week, and I quote, "Winnipeg is not a war zone." People asked a year ago, right? If this was a year ago, they asked him this, and he finally just answered like a week ago. People asked if the city was becoming more violent, and unprompted, the chief stated, "No, we're not a war zone." So yeah, we just asked if it was becoming more violent. He put the words war zone out there. And he then walked away from the podium, revealing his bulletproof vest, put on his riot gear helmet, and hopped in an APC armored vehicle, right? Now, a few weeks back, I heard on the news gang members across Canada have taken up to 3D printing 3D printing guns, as Justin Trudeau recently banned all handguns, making tracing these weapons several steps harder, right? They said it's very easy to go on, and it was weird. It was a weird news broadcast because they're like, "Listen, here's what you're gonna want to do is it's so easy to 3D print a gun. All you got to do is you got to get the 3D printer. You got to go on the blueprints of any kind of gun and just individually 3D print the parts. And then you probably might need to just order like some gunpowder. You know what I mean? That's all you need. That's all you need to do. And it's very easy to make gunpowder too. First of all, what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to get charcoal, and they went step by, and I was like, this is wild. They're telling us how to do this. And the buddy I was driving with was like, yeah, this is fucking weird. It's oddly specific on how they're telling. But again, it's easy if you're a criminal and you're looking to fucking 3D print guns, right? And since September 6 police officers have been killed in Canada. Although criminologists say, that's a weird thing, criminologists. Studying criminology. Oh, yeah, I guess that's fucking, I'm stupid. But although criminologists say it is not a growing trend and officers' deaths are still very rare, the police insist on bringing tanks to a fist fight, right? In my own interactions, I used to be able to threaten the banks, right? I threatened my banks, I threatened my customer service, I threatened, the phone companies. I just threatened them, right? Because at least once a month, I used to be just saying shit like, I'm gonna kill everyone in your company. And, then retracting it afterwards when they're like, oh my gosh, you're, this and that. And I go, I'm obviously just frustrated. I'd say, I'm just mad I got this $45 negative balance fee. You know what I mean? This shit, it was $1.70 charge. I got hit with a, $45 fee that they can't waive somehow. They're somehow like ignoring it. They're like, or they're just like, listen, or the fact that I had to wait for 2.5 hours to talk to customer service. I'm like, I feel like I want to kill somebody, right? It was just a feeling. You know what I mean? It's just some angry thing. And I usually apologize. And the Indian on the phone would thank me for not traveling provinces, hunting down his call center and unloading on what I assumed to be hundreds of his coworkers for $45, right? He'd thank me. He'd go, thank you for not hurting us or harming yourself or anyone else, right? Now, I threaten the banks, and I legit, I threaten the banks nowadays, and a legit tactical service comes to my house, right? A tactical unit, bro. And they legitimately came to my place, like with the fucking SWAT gear, with the fucking MP5s and shit. You know what I mean? The assault rifles. And they came to my place and called me first, which was weird to let me know. They called me saying, listen, do you have any weapons on you? And I'm like, no. But like, thanks for calling before you break down the door, right? Because it's weird, but I guess they thought I became a warlord with an army to back myself up somehow. And I asked the police leader, man, who, of the damn near close to a fucking SWAT team of 6 dudes invading and raiding and the weird thing is they didn't even look through my, you know what I mean? They did not search anything. I just said, nah, man, this is ridiculous. And you know what I mean? The 6 dudes, I said, did you hear the threat I made to the banks and how comical it was? I said, I'm so angry I could shoot my CO2 gun, which I admitted having. It's a fake gun. It's just one of those little BB guns. I could shoot. This is what I told to the guy. I said, I'm so angry because the guy was just not helping me with my. He's like, I don't know. There's nothing I can do. And I go, I'm so angry. I could shoot my CO2 pistol gun with a range of about 30 feet. And, you know, it's just a fucking point. It's less than 0.2 of a millimeter of, 0.2 of a millimeter BB gun. I'll shoot it out my window in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And it's going to travel all the way around the world. And it's going to go the other way and then it's going to land into Toronto magically. And it's going to bounce off your head because it's not going to kill you. And he's like, wow, that sounds like a threat. That's what the guy said, right? And I called him a dumb fuck. And I legit said this all while rolling off edible concentrates, marijuana edible concentrates. And the guy laughed. The guy that was on the phone, he laughed. And he still then filed a report to the police department. But he put me through to the right department to get my... at the time I was trying to get a wire transfer for money. And so he put me through. Everything went as thing. I even said, man, you know, I hope that guy didn't think me. Like, I'm sorry. Like I said, I'm sorry. I'm kind of fucked up right now. You know, I'm rolling on. I'm high, right? I don't know what I said. I probably said some bullshit. And it was like clear. And then the police department still showed up to my house, right? They said, all right, well, you're not an active threat. They ended up leaving laughing, going like, just talk to some. If you're frustrated, don't fucking threaten your banks. You know what I mean? But I'm like, I use my banks and my thing. I'm a two birds, one stone kind of guy. I use my banks and my phone companies as a form of therapy because it's easier easier to get two things done while also complaining and spewing my life problems to people that I most likely will never see or hear from again anyways, right? Now, after that, I showed up that Monday. I still had a appointment on that Friday with my bank to settle some shit. But I showed up to that bank, which, I mean, my bank appointment wasn't canceled. Nothing was wrong. I showed up that Monday to pay some bills, and I guess I was listening to legitimately that song DMX X Gon' Give It To You. I was listening to it pretty loud, but I was like, fuck, I'm going to the gym afterwards, or I'm gonna go for a run, or I'm gonna, lift some weights today. So I'm like getting in the headspace while about to pay the bank. It's easy to listen to DMX while about to pay for some shit because it gets you in that anger. I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't give a fuck. I'm paying bill. Fuck it. Here's $400 for a cable bill that I fucking get to watch once or twice a week, or whatever. Here's $400 for fucking internet that still lags, right? Some bullshit, right? But then I got arrested. You know what I mean? Which is, the DMX track was the biggest mistake of my life, listening to DMX while fucking waiting in line at the bank. Because they called the police going like, he's an active threat. He's a shooter. The police came in, put me to the ground saying like, you have a gun on you. Like we got literally like a promise that I have a gun on me. Like, I'm like, did you guys hear the thing? They're like, the guy lied to me because he said, yeah, we did hear it. And I'm like, I don't think you did hear the fucking transaction that I had with the fucking guy because it was so ridiculous. And they're like, yeah, we know that it's ridiculous and this, but we take every active threat seriously. And I go, listen, I'm in handcuffs right now. If I told you I could punch you in the head, you'd go, yeah, is that an active threat? And obviously these are the wrong things to say. But it's like, dude, look at, my hands are tied. I don't have any gun, but if I said there's a gun up my butt, you want to check it too? And they're like, no. And then again, I fucking just talk my shit. And it's clearly evident that I haven't done anything. I haven't ever done anything. But it was just a weird thing where people didn't know how I got money. Like, I took my pension out. And people were like, yo, how'd you get 10 grand? How'd you do? I took a pension out from my old job. And I walked around with money, and I was just kind of, people thought I was like some drug dealer. People thought I was like in a gang. And it was just like the constant harassment of police just because I'm a black dude with money was sad. It was sad. And it's clearly evident that I now know what needs to be done next time I have money. You know what I mean? I'm just gonna shut my mouth and keep my head down and just act broke, because it's easier to be a broke nigga than a rich nigga until you have so much money that you could just pay off people. You know what I mean? Pay off security guards so that shit don't happen. Pay off witnesses. So people actually see a black man, because so many people just watch me, you know, be treated badly and went, I don't want no part of that. And it's sad, man. But the cops laughed. They ended up laughing at me, laughing at the whole situation. They got the full story. I go, these people just don't like me because for whatever reason, they are jealous that I have more money in my bank account than them, right? These little East Indian girls at the teller, and they're saying like, oh, you should go take, I'm looking to take a trip and shit like that. You know, like, you should go take a trip to Saudi Arabia. And I'm like, if I go to Saudi Arabia, the amount of shit that I talk, and I said this, I'm going to get beheaded by the kings and those sand gooks. That's what I said. And I get why they sent, you know, I said those sand niggers. I think I said sand niggers. And I was like, that was one of those fucked up things. But I remember being there, and I remember them never taking me seriously. I remember I'd literally sit in the business aisle because I had business to attend to. I had fucking my, those investment accounts. So you have to go into there. But they didn't talk to me. There was a whole fucking push to just, like, a white dude in a suit would come up behind me and they'd go, we can take your help, sir. Like, literally, that was it. I was in front of the line waiting there. They'd go, yeah, one sec. Oh, the white guy that just came in, or a black guy and another black guy behind us in a suit, come on in. And it was just because I was dressed a certain way. I was dressed like a hip-hop dude. And it's sad. It's sad and evident, right? Where they and even then, they said, oh, well, we didn't see you. I'm like, I'm in front of you. Like, it was bullshit, right? And the cops laughed, the tellers laughed, the manager said, we're really sorry, and with a smile on her face, but we take our threats seriously, and it's policy. And I said, I'd like to see the fucking policy where jokes aren't allowed, especially when I set the narrative with all the, I said that all the time with the banks, only up to a certain point when, you know what I mean, I got some money and my shit could be taken down a peg, is when you wouldn't if a broke person talking shit, you just let him talk shit. A dude that has some money on him, you can knock him down a peg. Dude with nothing to lose has nothing to lose, right? And dude, I would say every citizen in the history of the world, we all want to rob a bank when they take months to send checks out from your dead relatives. Because whatever reason, there's actually no reason. With electronic pays and all these e-deposits, if you can fucking send a check to them like that for payments, you can put money into your account as fast as you can. But whenever there's some sort of discrepancy, say you're getting a will from a dead relative, or you're getting a check from a pension, it takes at least 2 to 3 months, and by that time, if the person, you already grieved, you got over it, and you're just mad at the banks for taking that long. You know what I mean? Just to send a check. We all want to murder a teller for laughing. When, you know what I mean? When you say some shit like, hey, I just got scammed, and they start laughing, and you go, why are you laughing? Oh, sorry. This is kind of fun. And they don't even do a good enough job to prevent the scams from coming. Because I got scammed, and I got scammed twice from the same person. And she said she'll fix it. She did nothing. I had to redo my cards. I had to get new numbers for nothing because I got scammed again. And I'm like, did you do what you're supposed to do? She's like, well, I'll do something else. And she did something else that then eventually worked. And I'm like, did I have to change my numbers for that? Well, you had to change the numbers for this one again. And I was just like, again, it just didn't really make sense because she changed my numbers, but she kept all previous things. So I had to just get new numbers, had to get all that stuff for future payments, these new numbers and recurring payments. But the thing was rerouted into old billing payments. It was a fucking weird thing that I just don't understand why she was laughing. She said, "Oh, it's your mistake, but I'm paying for it, right?" And I want to kidnap a financial advisor when they look you dead in the eyes and say that the negative credit fee for your account is for your own protection, so that you make sure that there's always money in your account. It's fucking maddening. And again, it's just a feeling, you know what I mean? And expressing these feelings and thoughts and emotions is clearly just that, speech. It's just an expression, right? But nowadays, corporations have the added benefit of being a human with rights, as well as being a complete inhumane piece of shit and getting away with it, right? They could do some corrupt shit. Like, they can, like, companies act like psychopaths. Like, on a complete 180 with the pride thing. It's like, hey, listen, we support gay pride, and whoop, never mind. You know, whoop, we're losing sales, never mind. We're now fucking manly men, you know, riding horses. You know, if anybody did that in real life, that change in persona is literally bipolar. Oh, yes, queen, slay queen, and oh wait, we're losing sales. I now believe, ain't nothing wrong with smoking a pack of Marlboro cigarettes while watching WWE, some wrestling, or the UFC, and drinking a cold pint having a beer with the fellows, and after that, watching, going to the strip club and watching a stripper shake her ass. I mean, it's just weird how quickly it changes with companies just because the profits are involved, right? And I think calling the police on a nigga gets clearly more lethal these days as these tactical units are being propped up, right? They become more and more violent to citizens. And the police encounters that we've ever seen, they're more violent and dangerous for the average person, right? Now, Ijaz Chaudhry, I don't know if it's Chaudhry or Cordurai, Ijaz, a 62-year-old man was shot dead after the tactical rescue unit were responding to a call after his family made, as he was a Muslim man with schizophrenia, having a struggle, maybe kind of a bit erratic, and he needed help. And the police pumped bullets into him, right? It's fucking crazy, man. And no charges for the police officer after breaking into the guy's home. I mean, anyone breaking into your home, he went and grabbed a kitchen knife, and before the guy, and they said drop the weapon, but he couldn't speak English. So they shot him. Like, he can't understand it. I don't know, just shoot him. Just pop him in the head. You know what I mean? Or they fired it into his chest, actually, which is ridiculous. And these tactical units, they rely on military-like weapons, including flashbangs, battering rams, and a range of other specialized equipment. You know what I mean? Tear gas, throw it into there's a baby in there. You know what I mean? And the dude fucking sold like 4 grams of marijuana. That's what the report. Throw tear gas in there, man. No one gives a fuck, right? In October 2022, the Toronto Police Service released a podcast episode on its tactical unit, the Emergency Task Force, right? This is what the ETA, right? ETF, sorry. The scene is literally just 2 officers brandishing and shooting assault rifles with suppressors, wearing helmets reminiscent of those worn by legit military personnel. That's the podcast. That's just, they're like, yo, it's pretty tight, hey? What we got now going on? We got some cool ass shit. You know what I mean? Ever since they killed about 6 guys since September, man, we were fucking up. They upped the police fucking. We got night vision goggles for fucking home raids now, bro. This is crazy, bro. We could rappel into your window and just fucking murder you for fucking We're like having bad credit. Fuck it. We don't give a fuck. This is crazy. Now, why do police need to be mirroring military units designed for warfare, right? The most troubling aspect of increased militarization is that many of these tactical units are being used in nighttime or early morning raids. And these are common to times when fucking family members and children are at home. And it's alarming. It's alarming that how quickly things can go wrong when you raid a home during these times. Times and night when shit goes wrong, right? One case, and this is in Mississippi, again, it's America, but it's just an example, and it's devastating, right? So, one case involved an 11-year-old boy who was shot in the chest in Mississippi. The 11-year-old boy himself called the police on his mom's boyfriend getting a little too drunk, coming home late. Drunk, or he was irate, came home late, they had an argument. His mom tells the 11-year-old, go call the police. He's fucking, my boyfriend's getting really fucking abusive, right? Verbally or whatever. And it's what was seemed to be a normal domestic call. The police officer approached the door with his gun already drawn, right? The officer did not look for the man. He just asked Nicola Murray, the mother, and he didn't ask. Sorry. The officer didn't look for the suspect. The officer didn't ask the mother any questions, and even explain why they came there. He ordered everyone in the house to put their hands up, and the boy, Adrian, came from the bedroom, following orders with his hands up. The boy gets shot. The officer shot him almost immediately, and while shot, bleeding out, the little boy asks, "What did I do wrong?" You know what I mean? Asked the 11-year-old boy minutes after he was shot in the chest by the police officer. The family filed an excessive force lawsuit. The 11-year-old boy, shockingly, he was only injured and he's still alive. It's crazy, man. A little boy getting shot in the chest, right? Because of the raid. It's like a raid, but it's like, dude, you're on a domestic call. You can probably get the job done at a domestic dispute by just talking it out. Like, hey, what's going on? Oh, you're keeping it too loud, right? It's the equivalent of, the family like partying too much. A domestic call. Arguments and disputes happen with relationships all the time. It's ridiculous that the fucking little boy that called the cops gets shot. And guess, obviously, the little guy was black. He was a black kid. It's fucking ridiculous, man. It was a black family, and yeah, of course, they came in with their fucking guns drawn, like it was fucking like it was the fucking Sinaloa cartel or some shit. Boom. Kid with his hands up also looks like he's fucking coming in. He looked like a bear for a second. You know what I mean? He could look like a bear ready to fucking bah. He had to do quick finger draw, man. It's fucking ridiculous, man. And it's sad. The instances where police raid the wrong homes or encounter individuals who are not involved in any criminal activity can bring PTSD to many citizens, many of whom have been reported to experience nightmares, insomnia, having flashbacks, and are in a constant state of hypervigilance or paranoia. You know what I mean? They're always looking over your shoulder. After fucking, shit, your 11-year-old boy, imagine what is like. Surprisingly, he's still alive, but his life is probably going to be severely impacted ever since then, because no matter what he goes through in his life, he's probably going to go, dude, I called the police to help. They came and shot me in the fucking chest. Any other time, he's in the back of his mind has to go. He could be 25 years old and maybe a robbery is going on in his house. He's going to be very hesitant to pick up that phone and call the police because, fuck, The last time he did, he got shot in the fucking chest, right? Like, it's gonna go longer and longer with keeping people afraid of the police with that kind of narrative. By adopting military technology and tactics, police end up treating our cities and communities like theaters of war and treating civilians like the enemy. The implied message of such militarized equipment is that civilian population is a threat and warlike tactics are needed to respond to that threat. Like many other policing practices, the use of tactical units disproportionately affect radicalized people, those living with, not radicalized, racialized people, those living with mental illness, and those in economically marginalized communities. The police involved deaths including Chodroy, Anthony Aust, and Tarish Ramroop are reminders of fatal consequences the military policing incur, not just in Canada but also in America. And it's clear that the tactical officers that have been deployed in response don't always make sense. When they get deployed to indigenous land rights movements and often protests, they're just protests. Sending out the National Guard for these things are a bit overkill, and further proves that these units are not just involved in just criminal activity. It's not just that. It's just whenever there's a large gathering of minorities. It's ridiculous. This undermines the goal of the police to protect and serve its communities, and subconsciously, on all aspects, looks more like an army waging war against its own citizens. For minorities, blacks, Hispanics, and natives, we know all too well policing can be unfair and unjust. The statistics, in my opinion, don't make sense. We hear the 17% make up the 50-something. We always hear these statistics, and black men have a higher propensity for violence and going into jail, right? And in my opinion, it doesn't make any sense, especially when most cases are added onto innocent black men with trumped up charges, right? A lot of these, when a guy gets in jail, there is immediately, like, if you commit one crime as a black man, there is 5 more crimes in that community that go try to get pinned on you. And if you're not smart enough to defend yourself, or the lawyer isn't paid off well enough, you get 5 more times, like up to 5 times more crimes than not times, but you get a handful of the crimes that just kind of match you because you look like the nigga that did it. You look like that nigga, and people just need a reason to keep you in there longer, right? The exact same crime a white guy commits and a black guy commits is about 20% longer for the black man that would get convicted. And on cases like stealing $200 worth of stuff versus, you get jail time, significant jail time as a minority. A black man, Latino, or Native American, you get significant jail time for stealing $200 versus, which is in most cases a slap on the wrist, versus like something like my white homie, right? Good friend of mine. We got a little drunk. He started stealing shit from his workplace. And he stole, a sign worth about $200 off his old job. They had him on camera, you know what I mean? And they called him saying like, hey, let's work an agreement out. We know you used to work here, probably frustrated by the fact we fired your ass. You know what I mean? We'll just take a payment for that thing that you stole. You know what I mean? So it literally ended up in him going, no, nothing. He just had to get the money together to buy this sign in the wildest shit that I've ever seen. It was wild. I go, Jesus Christ, man. I go, if that was me stealing the sign, they would be like, listen, man, we're going to put you in jail just to, even though you're a worker here, in the exact same scenario, they would have been like, listen, man, I don't even think I could show up and I can't even show up to my old jobs after being fired. You know what I mean? They'd call the police just on that. I couldn't do it, man. They would get me escorted quickly away from it, man. The worst part about it is that profiling is done in a horrible routine, right? If the police monitored gangs and shut them down effectively, it would make sense. There would be a lot less crime on the streets. There wouldn't be a rise in crime. Like, you know what I mean? If they did their jobs at profiling the rights people and not, there wouldn't be innocent people locked up, and there wouldn't be, there wouldn't be that ridiculous amount of petty crimes being committed throughout the streets, and serious homicides and whatnot, right? It would make sense if they were doing it effectively. Instead, they are out here shooting innocent 11-year-olds in the chest and then letting guys like O-Dog from Menace to Society go around racking up the fucking crime statistics untouched. There's always those weird niggas on the block. And listen, man, there are like the Chris Rock thing. It's like there's black men, you know what I mean, do their job. They get their money legit, nothing wrong. And then there's niggas. Now, for whatever reason, the violent niggas, they get untouched by police. They actually get monitored less, I think, right? Than the average dude. Like, you could be a black dude in a suit and you motherfucker will be following you around like crazy. It's strange, man. I don't get it. I'll never understand the prison industrial complex, the need to lock up young brothers and force them into cheap labor in a school to prison pipeline. It's shocking, man. Because like when I was in grade 1 and I lived in the hood, I used to live downtown. We had a field trip to the police station. And the police station required all the kids at that time, which was a majority of fucking natives and black kids, these, dark-skinned, people of color, minorities. We all fucking went there and got our fingerprints. And I remember coming home and telling my older brother, I think this, and he's like, yo, dude, they did that specifically to keep you in the system. Like, at any time just to make it easier to catch you if you do anything. And I was like, that is wild. That is wild when you get old enough to figure that out and go. And I asked the police officers, they said that's just, they don't keep those for records. They're kids, they don't. But they probably must have done something with them. You know what I mean? Especially because, you get a little picture, you give a picture of, that's what your fingerprints look like to the kid. They keep a copy of it. It's somewhere in the database. And the school I moved to when my mom, went into a nicer neighborhood, the school I moved to, and I asked the kids in that nicer neighborhood, did you guys have that experience when you're, they go, no, they did not have a similar experience to what I had. And in all honesty, I feel defeated in a long-standing fight for justice and fight against the injustice. Black men have to lose simply based on the fact that they're black. There's skin color. There is not a lot of powerful black role models in mainstream media. Kanye West was right when he went on Drink Champs. You know what I mean? Any song, if you look about it, on the Billboard charts, in terms of hip hop, created by black men, the top ones are extremely violent, brag about treating women like hoes, and is ultimately self-destructive for themselves and the community, right? You get like DaBaby, and he's always gonna be, the guy, Lil Baby. These guys that like just are part of a lifestyle that perpetuate the average young black man to join a gang, get propped up by, selling drugs, it's always like, so many people said making money in the rap game is just the equivalent of, you're just selling drugs. Like everybody the top dude, Jay-Z, billionaire, he clearly isn't selling drugs, but his last few everything is like, I just got it all off fucking selling I got, selling drugs and this and that. And it's weird, man. It's sad. And the moment we seen him, Kanye West, on Drink Champs, and he has said he is saying that we have to inspire black people to become future leaders. He suddenly became an anti-Semite because apparently Jews are only allowed to run powerful companies and corporations. It's sad, man. The moment I tried to start uplifting my community and just help out some poor black dudes and native guys in my community, right? I'm just giving out, like, here's $5, man. Buy lunch, if you have to, buy a King can. If you got the shakes, it's like, and I know what it is, and I'm not privy of like, hey man, you're struggling, but here's some money to get you through it, so you can now focus on whatever money you get afterwards. You get buy a, you know what I mean? You buy a $2 King can and you get a fucking bagel or something, or some coffee, just to keep you up and get you to fucking get the motivation to get some money or bag or whatever, get to that shelter, because he's sitting on this thing all strung out, right? And I'm giving money out to these dudes, but then all of a sudden in my community there becomes a rumor that I'm on meth, and I'm giving these money to these homeless guys in some sort of interaction of a drug sale. This is perpetuated by Canada Life security guards, which was ridiculous. In the end, man, it's safer to not help out any person of color. It's safer to give into the to not give into the long-standing narrative of black people helping each other up. It's easier to not do any of that. Constantly fight it with each other and accept the lies spewed by white nationalists about how we are just a race more prone to violence. It's easier to just accept it, right? The only safe, acceptable black entrepreneurs are strangely homoerotic, if you ever noticed that. Like Tyler Perry. You know, he pretended to be an old granny just to be able to perpetuate his dialogue and be acceptable to white audiences. Jordan Peele, famous movie director, he's previously done numerous sketches with Keegan-Michael Key, with the Key and Peele and Mad TV, and they both were strangely feminine gangsters, and often at times, multiple times, dressed up in women drag. Long before finally getting his stripes in Hollywood to make his own movies the way he wanted to, and his own skits as he wanted to. Dave Chappelle denied this metaphorical dress-wearing ceremony with Comedy Central. And he came back to stand-up comedy bigger and better than ever, right? And subsequently, after that, he came back, he somehow was labeled a transphobe consistently. Even to this day, the smear campaign still lingers on, man. And I find it's weird because especially any deep, like, person helping the community with the troubles in terms of race and they get blown, like any positive black leader gets blown out, like they get tossed to the wayside. And like Black Thought, you know, Talib Kweli, Mos Def, they are legitimately, they're with Dave Chappelle. They have a podcast with Dave Chappelle, but it's only looked at, Dave Chappelle's only the one looked at as the owner of the podcast, when Mos Def spews quite a bit of real fucking knowledge on that podcast that they have together. For some reason, like, again, with what Kanye West said, it's strange that when you take a black man and give him, you know, the breadwinner, essentially, the right black man, he is propped up, and in this society, in North American society, he's the go-to breadwinner, but he can't bring his whole community along with him, and he has to himself spend the money and do everything. But if he got incarcerated, everybody that he's with is being taken down, whereas a white person gets the added benefits of when they make it in their industry, they can bring the nepotism along and have their friends work in that same industry alongside them. But if that white person goes down, like Bernie Madoff, the people around him don't go to jail. Even, you know what I mean? The people, it's just the one guy that gets caught goes to jail. Much like Epstein. Guy, all of the people that were with him don't go down. It's just that they cut that, as soon as something happens, they cut ties like fucking clockwork, and nobody near these giant criminal organizations ever get touched, and they can do what they want again. Unlike the exact opposite effect that black people have, where we have to suffer. Like if I know some dude that I'm an accomplice, and I'm most likely gonna get the same amount of time, unless, you know what I mean, we all snitch on each other or whatever the fuck it is. But it's devastating that that main message that Kanye West was speaking before he got this ban thing, that goes by the wayside because he just happened to say he also fucking, as a Christian, God-fearing Christian, he loves everybody, including Hitler. It was a weird thing to spew, but it was also like, you have to give them something to attack, because otherwise there probably wouldn't have been, I don't know if even those kind of messages, they would have just got maybe thrown to the wayside, like, oh, that's just Kanye West, he's just saying some stuff about black leadership. But whenever somebody is talking about black leadership and uplifting black people, it goes nowhere. I've noticed that. Like, I don't know, I'd have to see the results of some of my things about trying to uplift black people on my podcasts, or like, but a lot of my songs, they get, if I'm trying to like uplift a black person and kind of, you know, guide, you know, the young black youth into the right direction, it becomes nothing. Like, no one, there's always people talking about, you know, my drug selling songs and stuff like that and this and that. They love to see a crazy nigga go all unhinged. But then I have also a place for fucking black empowerment. But those songs don't do nearly as well for whatever reason. And it just is what it is. They don't sell. Or they're propped down by the algorithm. It could be a mixture of both. It could be that we're used to seeing and they act crazy. That's what we want to see. But in all fairness, man, it's like, it's the incentive is to just go out there, you know, hold a gun and wave it around, right? And in all honesty, man, I don't think like society can really fucking go long, like this long-standing thing to incarcerate young black men in jail. Like, what if like the aliens were like watching and they're like, listen, we're gonna give them the next, and I always think about this, it's a weird thought, and I get how fucking crazy but it's like a fucking, you've like a race of people feel hopeless. And this is what we have, right? We have Jesus to help us, you know, the magical man in the sky, God to help us. And for whatever reason, I have a fucking thing in my head where I'm like, if there's such thing as aliens, right? They came out and said that there's UFOs that we don't, unidentified, you know, fucking saucers or whatever. There's things that go on in this earth that we don't know about. We detect them on the military fucking channels and shit, but we don't know they're like kind of watching us. And after the first bombings of Hiroshima in Japan, there's been more and more sightings, and that's when we started seeing all these kinds of crazy aircrafts that aren't known to mankind, or at least what we think are unknown to man. And I think personally, like, the aliens are probably gonna put us into another, like, what if we got into another realm, or even God, right? Some super higher power is just waiting for the acceptance of equality of all people. Like, that was and like, Like you get to to make it even more make it more of a thing, like more in reality. You get to heaven, right? And they're like, listen, man, all you had to do was like these politicians, these things. The second coming of Christ would have, he would have came back if you guys just fucking treated black people equally. That's all you had to do. All you had to do, as far as human beings are concerned, is literally treat minorities equally. Treat your fellow man like that's like one of the first things in the Bible. Treat your man the way you treat others as to how you should be treated. But instead, the politicians locked them up in cages, treated them like animals, planted evidence on them that they weren't a part of, trumped them up as the same type of person committing a crime. Depending on how black how dark their skin color was, you fucking added years. There's times when a dude got 20 years for something that a white guy got fucking 3 months for, or a year for. Something like that, and it's ridiculous. And it's sad. And and it's, again, that's the only thing in my head that I can, like, it's such an absurd thought that, like, God he's just sitting there going like, yeah, you guys are fucking, they don't get it, and I'm not going to help them out. And it's just like, it's constantly, and it's sad that's like, it has to be like, deep down, only in the afterlife is when you get to experience true equality. But that's fucking, I don't know if fucking Frank Sinatra is a good way to end it in that's life, right? But it is as sad as it is, man. And strangely enough, it's as if to be the only way for a black man to be safe in the upper echelons of Hollywood is to fucking put on a dress and visit Disney World on gay days.